Davies. So we have very pleased to welcome Thomas. Thomas Davies is the director of Google for Work for Northern, Central Europe and Southern Europe as well.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so quite a big chunk of Europe. You manage the proposition of Google. And what I want to do in the next 10-15 minutes is get an idea of what you guys are up to for AI. And we'll also give you the chance to ask questions. I'm sure you know Google is a major player in this field. Thanks very much for coming and making time today. We appreciate it. It's your son's birthday as well, so he's coming just for his talk. So really appreciate it.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? How's it been this morning? Good? Excellent. You're a very quiet audience. I'm not used to it. So this is my this is my third city in 3 days. So if I'm looking a little bit jaded, I've only had 1 cup of coffee this morning. What is really interesting, by the way, I've seen Iron Man about 20 times because I've got a 7-year-old boy and a 9-year-old boy who is 9 today. So the reason why I wasn't here this morning is I took him to school with his new cricket bat. So I think I've got a pretty good excuse. Yeah, you know, what's interesting is everyone is interested in this now, right? And we spoke last week, why now? I mean, to do 3 cities in 3 days when, you know, the last kind of 3 or 4 years, I think we're all kind of building our understanding, our knowledge in the enterprise space, I think is a huge illustration of not the what, but the why now. And that has been the biggest question that I've had in the last 3 days especially is, look, what has changed now? Why is this so important? So, you know, I'll leave it to you
Here's
to...
your first question then.
All right,
why
there
now?
we go. So, by the way, I don't know if the panelists are still here. I thought you all did a terrific job, and you kind of laid the groundwork. You stole some thunder, so you've done, I think, a really, really terrific job. And many of those questions and answers that were provided, I think, are those that we're hearing at Google daily now. There's a huge interest. Did anybody attend our enterprise cloud event called Google Next about 6 weeks ago in the US? Did someone attend? We've got a hand at the back. So hopefully you heard Eric Schmidt speak, who our executive chairman, also Sundar Pichai. And it really comes down to sort of like what has changed. So if you think back, and I'm sure many of you are kind of IT veterans and, you know, got developer backgrounds or architecture backgrounds, you think about, look, we've always had good ideas. Business people have always had good ideas. IT technicians have always had good ideas. But it's been actually quite difficult to bring that up and get those kind of expedited and delivered to be that customers or end users. Because, you know, the last 20 years, and this isn't true of all companies because people advance, but we've gone from a very physical environment of IT and development, so you've got physical disks and networks, to virtualization, so that was kind of 10 years ago. But the reality is this, mainly a lot of IT and development effort has been focused at the infrastructure layer and not at, I would call, the most valuable layer. Not saying infrastructure is not valuable, but the layer where we can really derive a significant amount of business value, which is at the application tier. So that model of having to spend 90% of your time in the infrastructure spinning up machines and looking at cost has been probably the most inhibitive thing around machine intelligence and machine learning. What's happened in the last 2 to 3 years is we've really moved from the physical to the virtual to now to something that we would term the serverless internet operating system. And that sounds very grand. What does it actually mean? It's basically business and IT can work together to spend 90% of their time at the application tier. Because you should be able to walk in, whether it sits on Google Cloud Platform or another provider, you should be able to spin things up in a serverless operational cadence. And you're getting straight in to do the development work. So the infrastructure piece of delivering machine intelligence has only just arrived, and frankly, it's arrived this year. And that is why Eric and Sundar got on stage and said, the time for AI or machine learning and machine intelligence is now. And what I'm particularly passionate about is the applicability of that with an enterprise, and in particular within that is around productivity, which is something I'm just continuing to be fascinated with.
So it's great, because this was one of my questions actually, Thomas, because it was only this week that your CEO sent a letter to all the Google shareholders saying the business is moving from a mobile first to an artificial intelligence first world. That's a huge, bold statement for everyone at Google. What does that mean in practice?
Yeah, it is a bold statement. You know, part of our overall mission statement that we've had for the past 17, 18 years is to make information universally accessible and relevant. So the accessibility part is still incredibly important to us. I mean, how many people are online in the world at the moment? 3.3, 3.5. The next 3 billion are going to be coming online pretty quickly, and they're going to do so via mobile devices. Right, none of that's new. We know that. But how do you serve those next 3.5 billion users? It's what we think it's going to be via applications or apps, one of those two things. The combination of being able to abstract complexity and performance and dramatically reduce costs on the cloud infrastructure gives us that ability to kind of go up to the value tier, which for us generally I think is in that kind of application space. But Sundar and Eric still care deeply about giving people accessibility. And by the way, it's not just Google. There are other companies, including Facebook, that are doing a terrific job in bringing people online, democratizing IT. Okay, so let's just presume in 2, 3, 4 years, it is the small minority of maybe a demographic or territorial, geographic that don't have access to online content and data and applications. The next big thing is, well, what about the relevancy of that? And I think the beauty of the next 2 to 3 years of what we're going to look at is we're all going to go well into past the kind of trying to search for something to the suggestion, even beyond the assist, to actually having help. So you're going to work and applications are there to actually help you get your job done. There was, I think, a very interesting point on the panel around getting those small things out the way. We'd call it the mundane. Get those mundane things out the way, the repetition. Find a way, algorithmically or using machine intelligence, just to get rid of that. And then what you find is, so how can we use this technology potentially to aggregate all of the data within an enterprise environment, which many of you know can be vast, and put that into my hand, make me ultra productive. I don't want to work in an application. I just want things served to me in real time, highly personalized, highly secure, to get my job done effectively. And the good news is we've been working on this infrastructure for 15 years, but it's the application piece that is just about to be ignited.
So let's get specific then. Google's been working on it for 15 years. Where is Google with AI at the moment?
That's a very broad question.
Let's get specific in terms of what's applicable to a business setting.
Yeah. So let's deal with the plumbing first. So, and by the way, there's some fantastic competitors that we have in the industry. We've been using our own infrastructure for the last decade, way past a decade, and something that we did about 4 years ago. Say, look, if we have our infrastructure, so YouTube and Gmail and Drive, we've got 7 services now that have over 1 billion users. It's really, really hard to do that. I mean, go and ask Facebook how difficult it is just to have 1. We have 7. We've got the infrastructure, which means you've got the performance. Tick. Right, then you go up to the customer. Well, just because we have it, what about the customers? So we externalized it. And that's been going on over the last 3 or 4 years. So specifically for enterprise, the foundational piece now, so whether it's spinning up custom machine types or as Kubernetes for container management, price, you've got that. Then you've got the applications that we have built, right? And you'll be familiar with many of these, maybe Drive or Gmail or Calendar. And they serve a lot of people, so very, very performant. What we've been doing in the last 2 to 3 years, and aggressively now in the last 6 months, is for us to use machine intelligence into those applications. Mm-hmm. So for example, in Gmail, we have something called Smart Reply. So if you send me an email, it automatically looks at, well, what could or should be the 3 replies that I can quickly respond to. You don't have to, but it could do. It's self-learning. It becomes an incredibly effective tool just to get one of those mundane things out of the way. Or it could be something called Explore that we have within our spreadsheets tool. So you've got a giant spreadsheet. Well, there's data in there, but I'm not a data visualization expert. I can press a button and it does auto trend analysis within a visualization environment. That's like super useful for me. Then there's Google Goals in calendars, so the list goes on. So I think what you've got from Google is, look, we're going to continue to build what we think is highly performant, really usable applications using machine intelligence. The next thing is, well, what about you? And what about our customers? So you've probably seen we open source TensorFlow, so our kind of visualization API, translate, speech. So they went out there. So you can build applications now using these APIs. Well, that's super important, but it's not far enough. So we actually decided to open source TensorFlow to the community. If I were to ask groups of 10 of you to kind of huddle for maybe 2 hours, take the infrastructure plus machine learning, not just from Google, from other technology providers, you could come up with an application to serve your users, I can guarantee, in a highly performant, specific way. But I bet you if like 20 of us got together and decided to build from the bottoms up, from scratch, a new form of application to serve something, the value is exponential. And that's why we've decided to open source. So with an enterprise, what we want you to do, go and build it. We'll build it, but you go build it. And that becomes, frankly, incredibly exciting for a lot of CEOs, CTOs, and CIOs that we work with.
Great, so you're in a sharing mode at the moment. There is a lot of groundbreaking work happening at DeepMind. Mm-hmm. It's received a lot of press internationally. It's a homegrown UK business. When are we going to see some of that technology being shared widely, or being available into Google products in the future? DeepMind was acquired in early 2014, as you know. Again, it's one of many things that we're doing. So, you look at AlphaGo. I mean, we've all heard about AlphaGo, and I think it was something like 240 million live people streamed on AlphaGo. So for us, it was, I think, a really important moment for us and DeepMind. But TensorFlow was developed by a different team called Google Brain. And this isn't for us kind of like one pot, one set of kind of instructions. We really are building these things from the bottom up in different teams. What I can share with you is there's currently over 100 projects that we are applying machine intelligence to inside enterprise, outside. So I think someone mentioned earlier on about the search algorithm. Absolutely, that's one of them. Driverless cars, diagnostic, medical, so through Calico, which is one of our alphabet companies. Quite frankly, because it's open-ended, it's endless. We have a lot of products and services across the entire Google Alphabet brands that we can apply it. So we are incredibly excited, and within the enterprise space, you're going to just see more and more of these kind of applications kind of coming through from Google and our partners moving forward. So Thomas, before we pass on the floor to the audience for questions, what's one key message that you will have to all the enterprises in attendance?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. So I presented at an event 2 weeks ago called UC Expo, which is about communication and collaboration. So very application, productivity centric. A lot of kind of business people in there as well. So I studied archaeology at university a long time ago. People were like, oh my God, how on earth did you get talking about this stuff? I've learnt it. I've worked really, really hard and I've learnt it. I would ask everyone who is not a computer scientist to invest at least a portion of their time to get really up to speed with some of these things. Cloud and mobile, the ship has sailed. Okay, we're moving well into those kind of domains. This is something that I hope doesn't get badged as the next cloud, like the marketing cloud, the sales cloud. I mean, everything was cloud for like 6 or 7 years. It was incredibly tiresome. Invest the time to understand this. I've just started to scratch the surface. I think someone used the analogy earlier on. I honestly believe this is an unprecedented opportunity for us to do something in enterprise that's never been seen before.
So a message that's been conveyed by quite a few of our speakers this morning indeed. Are there any questions from the audience for Thomas? This is a good opportunity.
They have to be really easy, by the way. So, I mean.
Yes, we've got one here at the front.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to ask, we've seen in the news today about, or this week at least, about patient records being shared with DeepMind from several London hospitals.
Yeah.
Why is Google a good fit to be determining, what happens to patients and picking out of their patient histories, whether they might be susceptible to certain diseases. How did that sort of ever come about, and what exactly is DeepMind doing with those patient records that it's able to make those sort of notice those trends and find out that information?
Yeah, I'll try and answer the question as accurately as I possibly can. So one of the things I have spent a lot of my time the last decade is talking about cloud, right? Security and privacy in cloud. It's exactly the same discussion. That relationship was formed for us to try and do something to help frontline staff, right? So if you actually kind of, generally go and have a read, actually go look at the DeepMind website. It explains what we're trying to do. A lot of the work that they're doing and we are doing as a company is to try and give people the infrastructure, the computational power, and the intelligence to go and do this kind of data analysis. The key thing is how do you expose that? So, well, the most important for me is to expose it within a mobile device. And actually, again, please go and have a read of it. It's very much around putting data, content, and applications into the hands of frontline staff to do their job better. To answer your question around, why Google, I honestly don't think it's any different to the discussion I've had thousands of times in the past decade. So who do you trust? Who do you trust with your data? So, our core business is security. Many of you may not know this. So Larry and Sergey, who are our two founders, you know who our head of security is? It's Sergey Brin, right? We take this pretty seriously. We know with 7 services over 1 billion users, if we get that wrong, it is going to be irreparably damaging to us. So it's just about telling a natural narrative that people believe, they trust. So security and privacy, frankly, go hand in hand. With cloud, security actually is less of the discussion now, because I do feel that there are probably a very small number of vendors that are trusted to provide a secure environment for data. Privacy, especially in Europe, is of course, it's a fluid environment, it changes almost daily. But all I can say is security is our core business. We've been doing this a long time. We're trying to do things to make things better. And that is the underlying principle. DeepMind is a general tool, as you know. We've just decided to go deep in this one particular area. We hope to provide some significant frontline benefit to doctors and nurses, which I think is a good thing.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you for being with us today.
Pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
For the information.